Are we really learning, or just consuming information? Let me start with a simple question. In today's world, we learn more than any generation before us. We read summaries. We watch videos. We listen to podcasts, just like this one. But sometimes, quietly, another question appears. Are we actually learning, or are we just collecting information? This is exactly the question raised by a Vietnamese classic written in 1960. A book called I Learned by Myself, by Nguyễn Duy Cần. Even though it was written more than 60 years ago, its message feels almost uncomfortable in today's fast, distracted world. Because this book is not about learning faster. It's about learning deeper. And more importantly, learning in a way that helps us become more human. Thursday John Nguyễn Duy Cần, whose real name was Nguyễn Duy Cần, 1907 to 1998, was originally from Châu Thanh District, My Tho Province, now My Tho City, Tien Giang Province. He worked in many fields, including writing, teaching, traditional medicine, and the study of Eastern philosophy and the I Ching. His books consistently reflect a strong spirit of self-learning. The author himself was a self-educated and self-made scholar. Although he only completed a lower secondary education, he became a respected intellectual through self-study and was invited to lecture at many prestigious universities. His works address topics such as calm living, moral discipline, preserving one's true nature, responsibility, independence, integrity, and scientific methods of intellectual training and learning. In relation to personal development for young people, his books affirm that the intellectual and philosophical values of the past remain relevant in modern times. 1. What does it mean to be truly educated? According to Nguyễn Duy Cần, a truly educated person is not someone who knows many things. It is someone who truly understands what they know. He makes a very sharp distinction between learning and education. You can have degrees. You can speak confidently. You can quote many books. But if your knowledge cannot be applied, if it does not change how you think, act, or live, then it is still superficial. He famously says something like this: true knowledge is what remains after you have forgotten everything. Think about that for a moment. When the details fade, when the words disappear, what stays behind? Your way of thinking, your judgment, your inner compass. That is real learning. 2. The true purpose of learning. For Nguyễn Duy Cần, learning is not primarily about success, status, or competition. The ultimate purpose of learning is happiness. Learning should make us more open-minded, less dogmatic, more tolerant of different views, less trapped by narrow beliefs. A well-educated person, in his view, is someone with a wide and generous mind, someone who can listen without immediately judging, someone who does not cling desperately to being right. In a world full of polarization and certainty, this idea feels more relevant than ever. 3. The foundations of self-education. Nguyễn Duy Cần does not offer shortcuts. In fact, he openly rejects them. Self-education, according to him, rests on a few core foundations. First, effort supported by interest. Effort alone does not last. Interest is what keeps learning alive over time. Second, learn broadly, then learn deeply. Learning broadly helps us escape absolutism, the belief that only one perspective is correct. Learning deeply prevents us from becoming shallow generalists, who know a little about everything but understand nothing well. Third, and most important, know yourself. Know your strengths. Know your limits. Know what truly resonates with you. This, he says, is the very first lesson of an intellectual life. Fourth, a simple life and focused attention. Deep learning cannot happen in a constantly scattered mind. Too much noise. Too much social distraction. Too much unnecessary complexity. All of these fragment our thinking. And finally, patience. Nguyễn Duy Cần defines genius in a very quiet way. Genius is simply long-term perseverance. 4. Reading as an art, not a habit. For Nguyễn Duy Cần, reading is the most important tool of self-education. But not all reading is equal. He strongly advises choosing books carefully, prioritizing timeless works, avoiding excessive summaries and shortcuts. Some books, he says, are meant to be read once. Others are meant to be read again and again throughout life. And perhaps most importantly, reading should not be passive. You are not meant to submit to a book. You are meant to dialogue with it. Compare it with your experience. Question it. Challenge it. A good book does not give you answers. It sharpens your questions. Everyone, he suggests, should have a few bedside books to return to regularly, not for information, but for inner refinement. 5. What should we learn to build inner culture? Nguyễn Duy Cần idea of education goes far beyond practical skills. He encourages reading psychological novels to understand human complexity, studying history to understand the present and prepare for the future, learning to write clearly, to clarify thought, learning translation, to truly grasp another mind's meaning. Ultimately, he believes a well-developed person needs 3 qualities: scientific thinking, the ability to seek causes and evidence; philosophical thinking, the ability to search for meaning; emotional sensitivity, the ability to feel beauty and human suffering. This combination, he argues, forms a truly cultured human being. 6. Applying this philosophy in 2026 and the age of AI. Now let's bring this into our time. In 2026, information is no longer rare. Artificial intelligence can summarize books, analyze data, and generate content instantly. But this makes Nguyễn Duy Cần message even more important. Information is not education. And AI cannot do the most important part of learning for us. It cannot reflect on our experiences, transform knowledge into wisdom, shape our character. In fact, one of the greatest challenges today is mental fragmentation. Short videos, endless notifications, constant stimulation. Self-education in this era means protecting deep focus, deliberately slowing down, reading with intention, thinking independently. AI should be a tool, not a substitute for thinking. And perhaps most importantly, we must cultivate what cannot be digitized: emotional depth, aesthetic sensitivity, moral awareness. These are what make us human. Conclusion: self-education as a quiet, lifelong journey. I Learned by Myself is not an exciting book. It doesn't hype you up. It doesn't promise quick transformation. Instead, it quietly reminds you of something essential. True learning is slow, personal, and deeply transformative. Nguyễn Duy Cần compares self-education to growing precious hardwood. It does not grow like weeds. It takes time, care, patience. But once mature, it can withstand the storms of any era. And in a noisy world, that kind of quiet strength may be exactly what we need most. Why do we really read? Let me ask you something. When you read a book, what are you actually looking for? More information? Better arguments? Or maybe, something harder to name. In I Learned by Myself, written in 1960, Vietnamese scholar Nguyễn Duy Cần offers a very different answer. He says, at the highest level, reading is not about discovering the world outside us. It is about rediscovering who we truly are. And that single idea quietly changes everything about how we read. 1. Reading as a way to find yourself. According to Nguyễn Duy Cần, books do not give us new thoughts as much as they awaken old ones. Ideas we once felt but couldn't express. Questions we carried quietly for years. Doubts we never fully articulated. Books, in his words, are not containers of truth. They are sparks. They shorten the long road of human experience. Instead of living hundreds of years to learn certain lessons, we inherit the distilled wisdom of those who came before us. But here's the key point. The final goal of reading is not remembering books. It is reaching a state where knowledge is so deeply absorbed that we can forget the book itself and still live with the clarity, depth, and character it shaped in us. That, he says, is true learning. 2. How to choose books. Drink from the source. Nguyễn Duy Cần is famously strict about choosing books. He urges readers to eliminate books that are long but empty, books that confuse because the author lacks clarity, books that reduce great ideas into shallow summaries. Instead, he proposes a few timeless principles. First, read inexhaustible books. These are books that grow deeper every time you return to them. They are not consumed, they are revisited. Think of classics like the Tao Te Ching, I Ching, or the works of Pascal or Spinoza. Second, drink from the source. Always read the original work before commentaries or analyses. Why? Because reading interpretations too early paralyzes critical thinking. You no longer meet the author directly. You only meet someone else's opinion of them. Third, keep bedside books. Books you return to daily. Not for answers, but for comfort, strength, and inner alignment. And finally, a strong warning. Nguyễn Duy Cần fiercely criticizes book summaries. He believes compressed knowledge loses its vitality and creates what he calls half-baked intellect. 3. The attitude and environment of reading. For Nguyễn Duy Cần, reading is not a casual activity. It is serious mental work, almost sacred. He insists on solemnity. No reading while eating. No reading while constantly distracted. No reading as background noise to life. He compares true reading to a quiet ceremony. Focused, intentional, undisturbed. He even shares his personal discipline. Every evening, 2 uninterrupted hours reserved only for reading. Another important point. Own the books you love. Borrowed books carry time pressure. Owned books invite dialogue. Notes in the margins, rereading, reflection. A book becomes part of your inner landscape. 4. How to read, from digestion to dialogue. This is the core of his philosophy. Reading is not passive absorption. It is an intense conversation between reader and author. First, read multiple times. The first reading is fast, to grasp the structure. Later readings go deeper, into meaning and nuance. He uses a powerful metaphor. Learning is like eating. If you don't digest it, it never becomes part of you. Second, read books beyond your current level. Struggle is not a flaw, it is training for the mind. Third, read with a question. Before opening a book, decide what you're looking for. Curiosity sharpens attention. Fourth, assimilate and react. Bring your own experience into dialogue with the book. Agree, disagree, question, resist. He famously warns. If you read books and believe everything in them, it would be better not to read at all. True reading requires skepticism. Fifth, use the table of contents as a map. Understand the architecture of thought, not just isolated ideas. Finally, write after reading. Copy meaningful passages. But more importantly, write your own reflections. Writing is where reading truly becomes yours. 5. How to read different types of books. Nguyễn Duy Cần also offers guidance by genre. Psychological novels. Read them to understand inner conflict and human complexity. Avoid shallow romance that distorts emotional perception. History books. Read critically. History is not moral storytelling. Historians are subjective. Question evidence. Seek underlying causes. Newspapers. Treat them as supplements, not foundations. Read multiple sources to avoid one-sided thinking. Astronomy and geography. Read them to feel human smallness in the vast universe. A powerful cure for arrogance. Conclusion: reading as inner freedom. Reading, in the spirit of Nguyễn Cần, is not a race, not a productivity tool, not a status symbol. It is an inner journey. It demands patience, discipline, and above all, independence of mind. A true reader does not let books think for them. They use books to learn how to think. As Nguyễn Cần beautifully concludes, the value of books is not that they think for us, but that they help us think. And when practiced this way, reading can transform an ordinary individual into a truly cultured human being, someone with a wide soul, a free mind, and the quiet dignity of deep understanding.